Alright, it's finally time to actually open the charting program Moonscraper. We're going to explore its functions as we go, but if you want to familiarize yourself, you can hover over the tools on the left here to see what they do. Maybe. There we go. Start power, note, stuff like that. Moonscraper also comes with a PDF manual if you want to look at that, but it's really not a complex program. You don't really need to do that. The only thing that might not be immediately obvious is that the spacebar is the stop and play button. Also, since we've just opened Moonscraper, this is a good time to mention that whenever you save your chart file for the first time, you must save it as notes.chart. If it is any other name, such as the default song name .chart, Clone Hero will not recognize it. Alright, the first thing we're going to do in Moonscraper is click Song Properties up here. This is where we're going to enter the actual information about the song. I'm going to use a System of a Down song for our example here. We'll do Prison Song, System of a Down, Charter, that's you, album, Toxicity. Toxicity came out in 2001. We're going to leave the difficulty alone for now. We will enter that later after we've charted the whole thing and kind of figured out where it should go. You can do this genre right here though. We'll do metal. And you'll leave this media type alone. If your song is a cover, it is strongly encouraged for you to put in parentheses the original artist in the title, even if it's really obvious that it's a cover. So let's say this was made by Disturbed for some reason. They were covering System of a Down. You would put System of a Down cover in the title. Or let's say there was a additional artist in here. Like let's say it was System of a Down featuring Amy Lee as the singer. So up here you would put featuring Amy Lee. There you go. Now we're going to switch over to the audio tab. All you have to do here is click load, navigate to your song.ogg file, click open, and there it is. If you had the stems, this is where you'd load all of those in. We're obviously not going to worry about that. And we can close this for now. We don't have to worry about this advanced tab yet. Now, you might be itching to start putting some notes down, but we have one more crucial step before we can start doing that, and that's beat mapping. Beat mapping is getting the song in sync with the notes. A common mistake new charters will make is to sync the chart as they placed notes, but more experienced charters will tell you that it's much easier to get everything in sync, like the whole song in sync, before you start placing notes. But before we even get started with that, it's going to be helpful to click and drag the hyperspeed and highway length sliders all the way to maximum. There we go. This helps you read finer timing details in the chart. All the rest of these settings are best left as they are for now. So click the globe next to the word tools right here. This is going to switch to our global view. You can also press the G hotkey to do that. This is where you place things like BPM and time signatures, practice sections, stuff like that. It's called the global view because these things will affect every track of the chart, like regardless of what instrument you're on. This is also where you'll see the waveform of your song, which is really helpful to analyze for beat mapping. Since we put 2 seconds of silence at the beginning of our song, the audio should start a little later, like this. It should actually start really close to the this beat marker right here. I almost forgot, if you don't see this waveform here, you need to come up here to where it says waveform song. It might be none and then you won't see it. It's really helpful to have this on. And the reason it's so helpful to have this turned on is because I like to use the visual of the waveform to help me keep my song in sync rather than relying solely on just listening to it and seeing if I can time it myself. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. In most cases, we want the beginning of our song to line up with the first measure right here. There's going to be some songs where the first note is not like the first beat of the measure. It might be an eighth note before that. We're not going to cover that right now, but sometimes you'll see that in Songster or something, and you'll just have to make sure to line that up correctly if that's the case. If you're looking for that kind of thing, remember that the beat markers usually follow the drums, not the guitar. Sometimes the drums are what makes the beat, and then the guitar might feel a little bit offbeat to that. So you'll notice this isn't quite lined up. Well, maybe you think it is, but it's not. This is not quite lined up here. And we can align things with the BPM tool right here. So we'll click and place a BPM marker. We go back to our selection tool and hold down the control button while right-clicking on this BPM marker, and now you can move it around. You want to move it to like right where this spike starts. Before it was kind of right here. We need it to be right there. While we're here, we're also going to make a section practice marker. Place that right there. Call it intro. Now, if we are like way up here and we need to snap to different sections, you can do Alt up or down. Now we can snap back to the beginning. If this is not there and you're up here, while I'm pressing buttons you can't see, but you can't snap back to the beginning, and that's super annoying, so I try to do that right away. But how do you figure out the actual BPM? I usually use the BPM of the Songster tab as a starting point. So this is a good time to open that up in your browser if you haven't already. And remember again, guitar tabs are never 100% accurate, just close. That is especially true with BPM markers. Like instead of 120, it might be 120.2 or something like that. But if you're doing a song that does not have a Songster tab or something, Moonscraper can help you with that. We're going to ignore a lot of this silent stuff at the beginning. Let's find a good, sure, whatever. So we'll start here. And we're going to listen to the song while we'll go up to Tools, BPM Calculator, look at that. Alright, so I always play the song by hitting space, and then I click here, and then you tap space along to the beat of the song while you're clicked here. Alright, so nearest hole, 206. Sounds good enough to me. We'll change this to 206. That's obviously not quite right. And so the way we'll fix that is we'll put another BPM marker down. It's best to do this on these thick lines right here, if you can. Otherwise, you want to do them on the actual beat markers. Move it like you did with the first one. Control right click. And then I like to delete it and replace it. There we go, now it's that's the same BPM as what's coming before it. So now these look a little bit more lined up with, well, no they don't. So yeah, there's older songs, like I mentioned before, you're going to have to adjust them a little bit, like that. So it's more like 200. That's not quite right. Let's move that to right there. And now it's lining up a little more. And then you keep doing that through the whole chart. And as you go, you place these practice markers in different sections. This is not only important for having practice sections in your chart, but while you're charting, to jump around by pressing Alt plus up and down to different sections is super helpful for like copying and pasting when things repeat. Now you'll notice that I was beat mapping there without even listening to the audio of the song, and that's circling back to around why this waveform is so important. I actually picked this song specifically because these spikes where the beats are in this song are incredibly easy to see. So you can just move these beat markers around, and like I just know that there is a beat here, so I don't even have to hear it to know that that's going to be lined up correctly. Obviously, I also listen to it after I place it when I'm actually doing this, but for teaching, I'm just kind of trying to speed things along right now. It's also important to know that when you're moving one of these around, that's not just happening by magic. You are changing the BPM marker before this one. So if we go back to right here, see that says 204, but if I move this like way up here, now you can see it's 259, it's way faster. So we'll hit Control Z to undo that. So now that's also kind of why like this beat marker is here, even though it doesn't have to be. It's right before a silent part. So when I wanted to line this one up correctly, I knew I wasn't affecting I wasn't affecting this beat marker that has everything in time. I'm affecting only the silence. So it's everything between this one and this next one up here where the music starts again. So what do you do if you accidentally place a bad BPM marker in the middle of your song? If deleting it is going to cause problems, it wouldn't in this case, but assume that it would. You might be tempted to just move it to where it's supposed to be, like this, but you'll notice that when I did that, it moved the entire rest of the song back too. And even if you move this one back forward, it's not going to be in the same spot that you originally had it, most likely. And that little tiny adjustment might slowly add up down the line. So to avoid that, what you can do is you can anchor the next one. And by doing that, you click on that, and then you can either click down here on this little checkbox, or you can just press the A key. Now it's lit up yellow. That means it's anchored. Anchored BPM markers will not move, no matter what. So that allows us to move this BPM marker without affecting that one. Just like that. And now you can unanchor this one. Make sure you always unanchor a BPM marker after you've made the fix that you need to. And now you've fixed this one problem measure without affecting the rest of the song. While we're talking about BPM markers, we're also going to go over how time signatures work. If you already know how time signatures work, this video is going to be divided up into chapters, so you can just skip this one. Alright, so time signatures. Most songs are in 4/4 time, just like this one. It says 4/4 right here. The bottom number represents the type of note it's referring to, this one. In this case, the 4 means quarter notes or fourth notes. And then the top number refers to how many of them there are per measure. So 4/4 time means there are 4 quarter notes per measure, or 4 beats per measure. Another common time signature is 3/4 time, which means there are 3 quarter notes per measure. And that looks like this. 1, 2, 3, new measure, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Sometimes you'll run into slightly more complex time signatures, like 5/8 time. And when you change this bottom number here, see now these beat markers are actually eighth notes instead of quarter notes. So this is what 5/8 looks like. Again, you can use Songster to help find your you can use Songster to help find if your song has an uncommon time signature. Just know that it's occasionally wrong, like I mentioned near the beginning, that Master of Puppets Songster thing that was in a weird. There's no way that was right. Figuring out yourself isn't too difficult. If it is wrong, though, the quote unquote phrases of the songs typically, but not always, start and end on measures. So if the riffs or sections of the song seem to be repeating at the beginning of song measures, you've probably got your time signature right. It's also a good idea, again, to listen to the drums of your song for this, since the drums are what makes and keeps time. Don't forget that time signatures can change in the middle of the song, even if it's just for one measure. One important note about time signatures in Clone Hero is how they affect star power. How quickly star power drains is determined by the BPM of a song. So if you're charting a fast song with a time signature that looks like a fraction that could be simplified, consider reducing it. For example, if you have your chart set to 6/8 time, it would be better if you switched it to 3/4 time. This will halve the BPM and it will make the star power last twice as long on a song where star power would seemingly vanish. I'll actually show you exactly what that looks like here. So instead of, if it was like, what if we had this at 8/8 time? So you see how this is still lined up correctly and everything, but instead of there only being 4 beat markers here, now there are 8. So since it drains by the beat markers, this is going to drain like 8 beat markers worth of star power rather than 4 once you get to this point. So twice as fast. Now, again, I know I've done most of this just syncing the chart up visually, but again, it's important to make sure that the chart feels like it's in time too. So remember to go back and watch and listen. Some people like to use the metronome. You can either press M to turn the metronome on, or I believe it's up in Tools, yep, right here. This will make an audio clicking noise for every beat of the song. It'll sound like this. I don't use that a whole lot, but some people do, and I figured I'd let you know that it was there. It's a good tool, especially when you're newer, but I personally have a better time lining things up by just looking at the chart. One final note about beat mapping, you should still beat map sections of the song that you aren't charting any notes for, such as like this really long bass intro that I have here. I'll show you. So you'll see I made a beat marker right there, and I continue to do that throughout this entire bass intro. You should do this just because it looks cleaner and more professional while the player is waiting for notes, even though you might think not a lot of players will notice. If it's wrong, some people are going to notice, and that's just not going to look good. It's also a good idea to do this just in case someday you want to come back to your chart and add in other instruments. It will already be in time for those instruments. Since we have a whole chart in front of us, we're going to go over the practice sections again a little bit. You should be making these either as you're beat mapping the chart or directly after beat mapping it. They're not optional, you do need them, but they are especially
helpful for actually charting the song because they act as markers for you. So, like when you press Alt plus the up or down arrow key, it will jump to the next practice section. I think I talked about using that just to jump back to the beginning of the song earlier, but now that I have all these practice sections, I can show you how easy it is to just jump to different sections of the song. That's also incredibly helpful for like copying and pasting and stuff like that. The names of the sections, you can name whatever you want, but usually it's just like the names of actual song sections, like verses, choruses, solos, stuff like that. Um, when you're naming these, you should at least try to make it makes somewhat a bit of sense. Don't just like type in random gibberish, obviously. The way I like to do it is sections of the song that play exactly the same, I will number those, like verse 1 and verse 2. Uh, and then if there's like subsections of it, like Crazy 1, I have Crazy 1A and Crazy 1B. That's for when it's like kind of part of the same section overall, but the actual playing part changes a little bit. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Everything is now all set up, and in the next video we are going to go over the best charting practices and rules and actually placing the notes down.